On January 26, 1945, near the town of Holtzwihr in eastern France, a 19-year-old from Texas climbed onto a burning tank destroyer and held off an attacking German force of approximately 250 soldiers and 6 tanks alone for over an hour. He was already wounded. The vehicle beneath him was on fire and could have exploded at any moment. His men were pinned down in the trees behind him with no covering fire. The Germans were advancing across an open field toward his position. He picked up the tank destroyer's .50 caliber machine gun and he started shooting. For 60 minutes, while his commanders ordered him to retreat, while the vehicle burned under his feet, while German soldiers attempted repeatedly to flank his position and kill him, he stayed on that gun. He redirected airstrikes on his own position. He killed an estimated 50 German soldiers. He held the line until his ammunition ran out and the German attack collapsed. Then he climbed down, organized his men, and led a counterattack. His name was Audie Murphy. He was the most decorated American combat soldier of the Second World War. He received 33 military decorations, including the Medal of Honor, every major American combat award, and decorations from France and Belgium. He was, by the documented and official record of what he actually did in combat across 3 years of fighting in North Africa, Sicily, Italy, and France, one of the most extraordinary soldiers in the history of the United States Army. He was also 19 years old when he did it. Audie Murphy was born on June 20th, 1924, in Kingston, Texas, the 7th of 12 children in a family of sharecroppers. His father abandoned the family when Audie was a child. His mother died in 1941 when he was 16, leaving him the oldest male in the household with younger siblings to support. He attempted to enlist in the military immediately after his mother's death. The Marines rejected him for being underweight. The Army Air Corps rejected him for being too short. The paratroopers rejected him. He eventually enlisted in the Army Infantry in June of 1942, 1 month before his 18th birthday, signing with the consent of his sister because he was not yet of age. He was so small and boyish in appearance that his first commanding officer reportedly tried to have him reassigned to a cook position, believing he was physically unsuitable for combat. Murphy reportedly wept in private when he learned of the attempt. He was not reassigned. He went to North Africa with the 3rd Infantry Division in 1943. By the time the war ended in 1945, the cook who had been deemed unsuitable for combat had received the following: the Medal of Honor, the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, the Legion of Merit, 2 Bronze Stars with Valor Device, 3 Purple Hearts, and the Army Commendation Medal, along with the French Légion d'Honneur, the French Croix de Guerre with Palm, the French Médaille Militaire, and the Belgian Croix de Guerre. He was 20 years old when the war ended. Let us talk about what Audie Murphy actually did in combat, because the decorations, listed one by one, do not convey the accumulation of specific, documented acts of extraordinary valor that they represent. In July of 1943, during the Allied campaign in Sicily, Murphy received his first Silver Star after killing 2 Italian officers who attempted to flee on horseback. In August of 1944, during the Allied advance through France, he received his 2nd Silver Star for leading a 12-man patrol that killed or captured numerous German soldiers while operating deep behind enemy lines. In October of 1944, he received the Distinguished Service Cross, the 2nd highest American combat decoration, for personally destroying an entire German machine gun nest that had pinned down his unit, then directing fire on enemy positions, while himself wounded. Each of these actions would be, for most soldiers, the defining moment of a military career. For Murphy, they were steps on the way to what happened at Holtzwihr on January 26, 1945. That morning, Murphy's company of 18 men was ordered to hold a position near the town against a German force that significantly outnumbered them. Within the first hour of the German assault, All of Murphy's officers were either dead or wounded. He was the senior man remaining. He ordered his men to withdraw into the tree line and take cover while he remained at the forward position to direct artillery and air support on the advancing Germans. He called in the strikes on his own position, meaning close enough to himself that the margin for error was measured in yards. He then climbed onto the burning M10 tank destroyer that had been knocked out earlier in the fight, took control of its machine gun, and began firing directly at the advancing German infantry from an elevated and fully exposed position in full view of the German soldiers he was shooting at, on a vehicle that his company commander later said he expected to explode at any moment from the fire burning in its hull. His Medal of Honor citation describes what followed with the compressed factual language of official military commendation. It states that he killed dozens of Germans and that his action caused the German advance to stall. It notes that he refused to be relieved of his position despite repeated orders from his commander to withdraw. It records that when the ammunition for the machine gun finally ran out, he climbed down from the burning vehicle, reorganized his men in the tree line, and led them back across the open field in a counterattack that drove the German force from its position. The citation concludes by noting that Second Lieutenant Murphy's actions single-handedly halted the enemy advance and prevented the annihilation of his company. He had turned 20 years old 6 months earlier. After the war ended, Murphy became famous in a way that American society in 1945 was uniquely prepared to accommodate. His photograph appeared on the cover of Life magazine. He was recruited to Hollywood, where he went on to appear in 44 films over 2 decades, most of them westerns, developing a screen persona that drew directly on the quiet, matter-of-fact toughness that the people who served with him described as his most defining personal quality. In 1949, he published a memoir of his wartime experiences called To Hell and Back, which became a bestseller. In 1955, Universal Studios made it into a film, with Murphy playing himself. A decision that studio executives initially resisted on the grounds that audiences would not believe one person could have done everything the script depicted. The film became the highest-grossing film in Universal Pictures history, a record it held for 20 years until it was surpassed by a movie called Jaws. What the fame largely obscured during Murphy's lifetime was the psychological cost of what he had survived. Murphy was open in his later years about the nightmares, the hypervigilance, the inability to be in a room without positioning himself facing the door, the hair-trigger startle response that made living with him difficult and that he recognized with the clinical precision that came from years of trying to manage it, as the condition that would not be formally named post-traumatic stress disorder until after his death. He advocated publicly for veterans struggling with what was then called battle fatigue, arguing that it was a wound as real as the physical ones and deserved the same recognition and treatment. His advocacy was decades ahead of the medical and institutional recognition that eventually caught up with it. Audie Murphy died on May 28, 1971, in a plane crash in Virginia. He was 45 years old. He is buried at Arlington National Cemetery, where his grave is the second most visited in the cemetery after John F. Kennedy's. The most decorated American soldier of the Second World War, 20 years old when the war ended, 45 when he died, still living with what the war had left inside him. Subscribe now. The next video goes inside the military rank that combat data shows is the most dangerous in the American military to hold. And the answer is not what most people expect. Tell me in the comments, did you know Audie Murphy's story before today, and do you think his post-war struggles change how you understand his wartime record? Drop your answer below.